All right, hi everybody. Hopefully everyone is in who's going to be here today. It's going to be kind of a smaller class because I know it is spring break for most of you guys, so thank you for still coming, even though it's spring break right now. So what we're going to do today is we are going to be designing a car together, and we're going to make that car move. So we're going to do some like introduction to animation basically. So what you can do now is open up a window with Code Naturally, get it all ready to go, and make sure that you start your new sketch in advanced mode. So if your screen does not look like mine, you need to go back and you need to start a new sketch that's in advanced. You can't just like write in this extra code. It has to be in advanced mode for this project to work. So do that now. Let me know in the comments when you guys are ready. Yeah. I think since it's a smaller class for today, we can like really work together on this, which will be fun. I would recommend trying to open up like two screens right next to each other. So you have Code Naturally on one screen and then you have YouTube on the other. So you can watch me and code along with me at the same time. You could also choose to just watch me, or you could choose to just listen and do your own kind of code on the side. It's really up to you. So let us know who's here. Check in, say hi. Let's see, I think there's three of you, two of you. About 3 people, that's awesome. So do us a favor and give this video a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please, please, please subscribe. We post a lot of videos, so that's something you guys could do over spring break if you wanted to keep coding and try out some new projects. Maybe you feel like you're ready for something more advanced after we do this lesson today. We have, I think, like 35 videos posted for you guys to check out, all different levels, all different types of projects. So you can go on there and check out what we've made for you. So let us know when you're ready to go and I'll get started. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier for you guys to see this. That's a little bit better, right? That'll be good. Okay, so I'm gonna just start by putting in a background. So like I said, today we're gonna make a car. So for our car, I'm gonna do a background that's like kind of a city, I think. So I think I'm gonna do like gray, like concrete almost. So when you're doing colors, this is a good little lesson for you guys. So 255 is white. So if I were to just write in here 255, the background is white. And I know it just looks like the blank background that's put in, but there is a difference between having a white background and having no background at all. And that's something we'll talk about when we get into more like animation, hopefully by the end of this video. When you do just 0, that's black. So if you're doing like a gray color, you can choose a number between 0 and 255, and the bigger the number is, the lighter gray it'll be, and the smaller that the number is, the darker gray it will be. So I'm gonna do my background blue actually, so it's like the sky, and then I'll do my ground, that kind of gray color. So I'm gonna choose a nice blue for the background. All right, it's kind of green. Not exactly the color I want. I think I gotta adjust my screen a little bit. There we go. Let's choose a blue or blue. You guys can choose whatever color you want right now. Does not matter. Looks like at least one person's ready to go. That still looks green to me. If your background isn't working, double check your spelling. Oh, I know that we went over this last time that you guys were here, but let's go over it one more time. So Function setup is where we'll do the setup for some of our projects. We'll get more into function setup when we're doing game design. Function draw is where we're going to be doing pretty much everything today. So make sure there's an opening curly bracket at the beginning of function draw and there's a closing curly bracket at the end of function draw. Just go there and just make a bunch of space because that's where we're going to be doing all of our code. So you can go back up to number, for me it's 11 just because I moved my screen down a little bit so you guys could see it. But yeah, move down and you want to make sure that everything you write will get closed up inside of those two curly brackets. So if I click this little arrow to the right of number 8, it'll all close up into this nice little package. So make sure you're typing your background right there, and then you'll put the color in. And another thing to check with background is that it's spelled right. It can be kind of a tricky one to get like completely right because of the G in there. So that's a more blue. That's what I'm looking for. So just a reminder on what we're doing. Make sure it's inside of the curly brackets of function draw. All right, so I put in a background. Next thing that I want to do is make some ground. So what I'm going to do for the ground is I'm going to use a rectangle. And another thing that we need to remember when we're using advanced mode is that everything is bigger than it was before. So we can't really have a rectangle at 1,4 that's 6 wide and 2 tall. It would be so teeny tiny you couldn't even see it. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my rectangle at an x value of 0 because I want it to line up so it really looks like it's the ground. And I'm going to have the y value at 350, which is right here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So 350 will be right here. And that's what I'm looking for. So if I put it at 0,350, now I know that each box is 50 units wide. So I want it to go all the way to the end, which I can just look up here and kind of cheat and just say I want it to be 600 wide, and I'm going to make it 100 tall. All right. Okay, so I have my ground in and I want to give my ground a color. So really important to remember is that we put our fill command before the shape. So I'm going to make a line between background and rectangle, and I'm going to fill it in with that gray color that we were talking about earlier. I think 150, that's a good shade of gray. And I'm going to add in another line that's no, capital S-T-R-O-K-E, no stroke. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a second to catch up. Everyone should have, at this point, a background, and then we're just going to make a rectangle. I want everyone to just start with a background and a rectangle for the ground. You can make it on grass, you can make it dirt, you can make it concrete like I did. Doesn't really matter. And then we'll go into the shapes that we need to make our car right after that. All right, so seems like everybody's just about ready to go. Remember that you can pause the live videos too, and you can always catch back up. And you can also rewind the live video. So if I say something and you're like, wait, what, that didn't make sense, you can rewind the live video, you can throw it in the comments, or you can just pause the video, figure it out, and then start it back up. So I'm going to start designing my car now, and I'm going to let you guys kind of help me out with that. So, oops, give me 1 second. Okay, so for my car, I'm going to give it a color. So I'm going to make it, let's make it red. Let's do red, why not? I'm just gonna respond to some comments really quick. Okay, so I put in a red fill command for my car, and so now what I'm going to do is make my actual car. So I'm going to make it out of a few different shapes. So I'm going to start by just making the body of my car, and I'm going to just make it a rectangle. I'm going to make this look kind of like a truck. I think I'm going to make mine like kind of small. I'll make it kind of big. Okay, so I'm going to choose to have the top left corner of the rectangle of my car be at rect, and then in parentheses 100, 200. I'm going to have it be 200 wide and 100 tall. Keep in mind that each one of the squares now is 50 units wide. So when I say 200 units wide, that means that I want it to be 4 squares wide. Because 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50, 200. Same thing goes for the height. So I want it to be 2 boxes high. So each box is 50, I want it to be 100. Okay, so I'm gonna make it one longer actually. I'm gonna make it 250. Yeah. Yeah, that'll look good. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do, I'm going to make like kind of a truck. So I'm going to make the like little passenger part of the truck. So I'm going to make another rectangle, and I'm going to make it up here at 250, 100, and then I'm going to make it 2 boxes wide, so 50 plus 50 is 100. So I'm going to make it 100 wide and 100 tall. Okay. I think that's starting to look like a truck, kind of. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I'm gonna add some tires to it because I think that'll really help make it look like a truck. And then I'm gonna add a window. Maybe I'll add like a headlight to it. Oh, you know what'll make it look more like a truck? I think it needs to be 300 wide. Yeah, maybe even 350. Maybe 375. Oh, 325. And maybe this needs to be a little bit longer. So I'm just gonna kind of mess around with mine a little bit to get it the way I want it to look. Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. There we go. Yeah, I think that looks good. And another thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to curve my rectangles. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. So when you wanna curve a rectangle, all you have to do is add a 5th number on to the code for your rectangle. So for example, I could put like 15 here, and that'll curve the edges of my truck. So now it looks like a little bit more real to me, because not very often do you see a truck that has like really squared off lines. So maybe I'll do that to both, see what it looks like. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna, maybe I'll do it for this one, but then I'll move the rectangle down a little bit, so I'll make it a little bit taller. There we go. So you can see I'm just like messing around with my code. This is really what I recommend that you guys do, and this is what I do when I make a project. So this is really just me coming up with what I want this to look like on the spot. So you guys should be going with like the same kind of approach where you're trying out different things, you're trying different numbers, and if something doesn't look the way you want it to, you don't always have to delete the full line of code. You can just change 1 or 2 of the numbers and then go back and fix it later on. Okay, so far I have a background, I have no stroke, which gets rid of the outlines around my shapes. I have a fill command that makes the ground gray. I have the code that makes the ground. I have a fill for the color red, which is the color of my truck, and then I have 2 rectangles with curved edges that make up the body of my truck. Okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do is make my tires. So if you guys were here earlier, I talked about how 0 is black, 255 is white, and then any just like single number on its own will be gray. So I'm going to fill these in black for the tires, and I'm going to make them ellipses. Maybe like right here, 200, 300, and then I'm going to make them 50 to start just to see. Oh yeah, 50 is going to be way too small. Didn't think that one through. 100 is what I want. So I think I'm going to move it to the left a little bit. So instead of 200, I'll put it at like 180. Oops. There we go. Back to it. I think I had it in dark mode earlier. I was going to talk to you guys about dark mode and how to use it. You can go over to the settings and just click that button and it changes to dark mode. Just a cool thing you can do. Okay, so I like the way that looks. So I'm going to do my next tire, and I'm going to do it at maybe like 310, 300, make it 100 wide, 100 tall. Oh yeah, that's not good. So instead of 310, I'll try doing 380. Yeah, there we go. Maybe that's a little bit too big, maybe 360. Maybe 370. Awesome. Okay, so I don't really like the fact that you can see the tire on the top of the car. I think it looks a little bit weird. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to change the order of my code. I'm going to take where I did the fill, where I did the ellipses, and I'm going to move it so that my tires will be still on top of the ground, but they're going to be underneath my body of my car. So whatever you code first will appear on the canvas first. So that's why it's really important for you to play around with the order of your code, because it will change the way that it looks. So if you like the way that it looks when your tires are on top, then you can totally leave it. Doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Okay, so now I'm going to throw in a window. So I'm just going to fill in my window white, and I'm going to make it a rectangle. I'm going to put like maybe right here, 320, 120. Then I'll make it like 40 wide and like 60 tall. I'm just choosing kind of random numbers here. There we go. So I like the way that looks. I think I'm going to leave it without curved edges. I think it could be a little bit taller, but I think it looks pretty much like a normal car window. And I'm not too concerned about making it look just like a car. I'm more concerned about making it look like a cartoon of a car, like a variation of a car. So let me know how you guys are doing in the chat box. Let me know if you need me to slow down or speed up or what. I'm going to add some details to my projects. You guys do not have to add this detail if you don't want to. I'm just going to add in a fill command. And I'm going to do a headlight. So I'll make it like a really light yellow color. Always make sure you're actually typing when you think you're typing. Do that a lot. All right, let's do 20 wide and 40 tall. What do you guys think? Does that look like a headlight? Maybe I should move it to the right a little bit. So instead of 435, maybe I'll try 445. Maybe I'll try 440. Maybe I'll make it a little bit wider and a little bit taller. There. That looks pretty good. So I'm just adding some details. Maybe I'll add a gray circle inside of the tires to make them look more like tires. I'll show you a little trick to do that. So what you can do is you can copy where you did your code for your tires, paste it right below it, and then just put another fill color on top of that. That's like a lighter gray color. And then you want to just change how big it is. So instead of 100, I'll make it like 50. And now it looks like there's a circle inside, because basically all that I needed to change was, I didn't change the X value, I didn't change the Y value, I just changed how wide and how tall it was to make it look like it was inside of the tire. And the color. Color is important. What do you guys think? I think it looks okay. Maybe I'll make this like 70 instead of 50. I really liked it better as 50. Oops. Cool. I'm gonna add some comments to my code. That way if I have to go back and edit anything, I can. Alright, so I've got a car. I'm actually going to make this a little bit wider. I usually change it so that it's not as wide as usual, just because I don't like it when the canvas is moving around too much. So I'm going to make my ground a little bit wider. There we go. And this will just help it look a little bit more polished when we are finished. Okay, so far so good. Seems like nobody's really having any problems, which is awesome. This is a pretty fun project, so feel free to make it your own. You can make your car whatever color you want, you can make it whatever shape you want, you can make like a Volkswagen Beetle, you can make it like an airplane instead of a car, you could do a golf cart. I saw someone make a golf cart one time, that was pretty funny. Yeah, it's really up to you. Come up with some way to do it that you think is fun and unique. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about is how to animate. So this is the really, really important part. This is where you should really be paying attention. When we animate our car, we are basically going to make a variable. And a variable is something that can change. So think about like the length of your hair or your height or what time it is. Those are all things that can change, right? So we're going to make these variables and we're going to attach them to the shapes that make up our car so that the shapes can change. Does that make sense? Because right now where they are, they're not going to move. And we're going to use just like some really basic math to make them move. But we can't do that math with just numbers because there is an answer, right? If I were to add 180 plus 20, that would always equal 200, right? But if I use a variable in its place, then the variable can always change, so the answer can always change. Hopefully that kind of makes sense to you guys. So in order to do that, I would really take some time to go through and comment your code. So this part here is just my landscape, this whole part. and then everything below it makes up my car. So I have some comments on there that let me know what's what, which makes it a little bit easier for me to change my code so that I can actually have my car moving. So I'm going to go over that one more time. Remember that you guys can rewind the video if you want to. You can pause it if you need to. I'm just going to go over it one more time. So we're going to use variables to move our cars. Variables are things that can change, like your, like your shoe size can change, right? Your feet can get bigger or smaller. Well, they don't really get smaller, but they can. Or how long your nails are, because your nails can grow. I already used hair as an example. So those are just some real world examples of variables. And when we're using our variables, we're going to attach them to all of the shapes of our car so that we can change the location of our car. So let's just get started. Let's do one of those. So right now, we're going to do something that we haven't done yet. We're going to go outside of function draw. So I want you to go right above function draw, but you're not going inside of function setup. Stay away from function setup. Close it up, get it out of the way, erase it. It'll still work without it. So what we're going to do above function draw is we are going to add in a variable. To add in a variable, you want to say var, and you'll see that if I spell it right and it's all ready to go, then the code changes from black to purple. So var, and it changes to purple. Then you want to do a space, and you want to give your variable a name. So you always want your variable name to be related to what your variable is changing. So if it's changing the speed, you want to name it speed. If you want it to change a score, then you name it score. In this case, we want it to change our car, but specifically, we want our car to move to the right. So we want our car to move to the right. So we want our car's x value to change because we want it to move along the x-axis. If we wanted it to move up and down, we would change the y value. So in this case, because we're changing the x value, we're going to do var, V-A-R, space, and then I'm going to call this car x. And you can choose if you want to do uppercase or lowercase. If you just want to call it car instead of car x, it's totally fine. Yours doesn't have to be named the same thing as mine for it to work, but I would recommend it just for your first project. So we have var space car x, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. Okay, so var car x equals 0, and nothing has happened. There's still a few more steps that we have to go through to make this all apply. So what we're going to do is we're going to use car x, and we're going to add it in to the x value of all of our shapes. So that might sound a little bit complicated, but it's easier than you think. So we're going to go and we're going to say, okay, our landscape, do we want that to move? No. If you make maybe like a tree on your landscape, do you want that to move? No, you just want your car to move. So I'm going to go down to where I started my tires. And I'm going to go line by line. So fill, is that a shape? No, it's just a color. Ellipse, that's a shape. The x value is the first number. So I want to put right after the first number plus car x. And you want to make sure that it's spelled exactly the same as how you declared it earlier. So this is declaring a variable. And then down here where you reference your variable, You want it to be spelled exactly the same. So this is a really good time for you to use copy and paste. So copy the plus car X, find the next shape, and paste it down there, or you can just keep adding it. So just keep writing it in. So like I said, we're skipping the fills because we don't want the color to change. And we're going down to the ellipse and doing plus car X. Now, really important, if you want, can't see the code. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, see if you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay, so next important thing. If you have a line or a quad or a triangle in your code, those shapes all have more than one X value that you put in code for. So for example, if down here I had a line, that would be at X comma Y comma X comma Y. Those would be actual numbers though, right? I'm gonna just comment it out. So you would have to add car X to both of those X values. Same thing goes for a triangle. If you have a triangle, you have X comma Y comma X comma Y comma X comma Y. You have to add in car X to each one of those X values. And later when it's actually moving, you're going to notice how important that is, because if you don't attach all three of them or both of them, it'll drag. So one will stay in the place that you told it to be in, and the rest of it will kind of drag and stretch out, which is not what we want. So, oops, keep doing that. Zoom out a little bit more. Okay. So I have my variable up here for car X, and then if I scroll down, I have added in car X, but not everywhere yet. So you can either paste it or you can keep just typing it in, but make sure you only do it to the shapes. You don't want to do it to the fills. And you want to make sure that you're doing it to every shape except shapes that make up your background. Okay, so now I have added it to each one of my shapes except for the shapes that make the background. Okay. So make sure that you are doing that. Make sure I always double check. So you want to go through and say, okay, I didn't add it into this one, but that's what made my ground. I didn't add it here, but that's a fill. But I added it all down here. Those two shapes are good. And those two shapes are good. All right, so now we are all good. Our car X variable has been added into all of our shapes. And now what we can do is add in the magic line that makes everything happen. So we're going to put car X equals car X plus 1. And what this does is, like I told you guys, everything in function draw happens 60 times every second. So it's reading through this code 60 times every second, and it's saying, okay, wherever car X is, I need to add 1 to it. So every time So every time that it reads that, so 60 times every second, it is going to move the car one spot. So an easier way to see that is if we take away the background. So I'm just going to comment out my background, and you can see a little bit better that it's kind of like stretching out is what it looks like. And if I scroll down and I made that maybe 5 instead of 1, it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of big. So if I said plus 100, you can see now that the car is actually only showing up every 100 units. It looks like it's going really fast, but what's happening is the computer's just reading it and redrawing it every 1 unit or every 20 units or every 50 units or every 100 units. So you can think of this number right here as kind of like the speed for your car. So I'm just going to have mine at 1, then I'm going to put my background back in. All right. So now we've got our rolling car, and let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know if your car is moving or not. Let me know if you want me to go over that one more time. If, let's say, you have one of your tires is left behind, what probably happened is that you forgot to add car X to it. So see, I just deleted the line where I added car X to one of my ellipses. And you can see that my car just took right off and left that tire behind. So what I need to do is go back in, and if I add in car X to it, everything moves smoothly. If you had a line, and the line is kind of dragging, then what you would need to do is go in and make sure that you actually added it in to both of the X values. Because it's really easy to forget when you're doing a triangle or a quadrilateral or line. It can be really easy to forget to add it into one of those numbers. All right. And if, let's say it's saying like something's not recognized, like it comes up with a code that says, uncaught reference error, CRX is not defined on line 17, then what that means is that CRX is probably our variable that's spelled wrong, which it is. It's CARX. Okay. So another thing we could do, maybe if we want our car to like move in reverse, what you could do is do car X minus 1 instead, and that makes it go back, because what's happening is every time that it reads the code, it's saying, okay, wherever car is, I need to move back by 1. Wherever the car is, I need to move back by 1. All right, so let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know if your car is moving, if it looks like something's dragging, or if you guys are just totally crushing it and you're all good. The next thing that we're going to fix is the fact that the car just keeps on rolling and basically goes off the screen. So we're going to fix that next. So let me know how you guys are doing. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, please. It helps us out a lot if you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right. So no one's really in the comments, which makes me think that everybody is either working on their code or they have everything done and they are ready for the next step. So remember that you can always pause this video, you can rewind it. You can also let us know in the comments if you need help with anything. Okay, so I'm going to just move on to the next step because it seems like everybody's ready to go. So the next thing that we would do is we would take our car and make it so that if our car goes off the screen, it comes back. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use a conditional statement. And a conditional statement is something that says if, and then in a set of parentheses. So if, in a set of parentheses, something happens, then something else will happen. And the way that we say then to the computer is by using curly brackets. So I'll put that in the comments for you guys. If, in parentheses, something happens, then the curly brackets, something else will happen. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to use that here and say if, in a set of parentheses, and the something that we want to check is if our car's x value is greater than a certain number. So in this case, we want to check if it's off the screen. So I'm gonna just use 900. So if car x is greater than 900, then what we want to happen is we want it to start back over. But if you start it back over at 0 where it actually started, it'll kind of look like the car teleported. So let's just do that and see what it looks like. So I said if, in parentheses, car x is greater than, using the greater than sign, 900, then using the curly brackets, car x equals 0. All right, so it kind of looks like the car teleports and that's how it gets to where it is, which is not exactly what we're looking for. So it goes off the screen, goes to 900, and it just kind of like teleports back to where it started. So instead of having it at 0, I'm going to put it at -100. That way, instead of appearing at 0, it'll appear 100 spots after where that 0 point is. So it still kind of looks like it teleports. So instead of -100, we could try like -500. So you really just want to play around with these numbers until it gets to a point that you're like, wow, that actually looks really good. Same thing goes for the speed. So I'm noticing that the car's going pretty slow, so I'm going to speed it up to 3. And it gets completely off the screen and then completely reappears. Cool. So now we have a car that makes it all the way off the screen and then reappears on the screen. All right. So let us know how you guys are doing. Share your projects with us using the link that's in the description of this video. If you guys want to have your project featured, share it there. I'm going to share some projects towards the end of class. We're getting towards the point that we usually leave for questions. So let me know if you guys have any questions. If not, this is a pretty small class today, so we can make something else. We could, make some changes to this. If you guys have any requests for me to go over, you can let me know in the comments or in the chat box, actually, if that's better. All right. So let me know how you guys are doing. Seems like everybody's either doing really good or they're really lost. Because no one's really in the comments. But just let me know and I can go over it all over. So another thing that we could do, I'm just going to do this right now as an example. I talked about how the speed is basically speed is a good thing that you could use as a variable. So let's just make a variable for our speed. So I said variable speed equals 3. So then instead of having car x equals car x plus 3, I could do plus speed. That way if I wanted my speed to change it, I could change it. So I now have two variables. And they're made the exact same way, they're in the exact same place. You want to make sure you give them a name, and something to keep in mind, you can't have a space in a name for a variable, so it can't be like car space speed, that won't work. And like I said before, if you use any capital letters in your variable, you need to use the capital letters later on when you are referencing them. So for example, if I change this to a capital S, it's going to say, okay, we're not recognizing speed on line 34 anymore. That's because that's a lowercase s, and up here is an uppercase S. So I gotta fix that. All right, and now it's rolling. All right. So maybe I can make it so that every time it loops through, the speed gets a little bigger. So I could do speed equals speed plus 1. I could change that. So this way, every time that the car is greater than 900, the speed will go up by 1. So it's starting to go a little bit faster, and then eventually it'll go super fast. It's not that noticeable of a difference because it's kind of a slower increment, but if I did it by like 5, you could really notice. So it's going pretty slow. Now it's going faster. And even faster. And even faster. So that's one of the cool things about having speed as a variable. So it gets to the point where it's going pretty fast. Yeah, a little too fast. So that's one thing that you can do. You could also, you can like print out variables. That's something that a lot of people will do. This is really helpful if you're doing a game of some kind. So you can use the text command and say speed, and I'm gonna just have mine show up at like 50, 50, and it's pretty small, so I'll put in a text size. And so now you can actually see your variable at work. So right now it's at 3, then it gets to the point where it's past 900, it's starting over, and it went up by 1, like I told it to. So now it's looping back around, and it's gone up by 1. And that's one of the ways that you can tell that something's actually working. You can check where your X and Y values are for something. Like for example, I could also print out my car's X value. If that was something that I was like, this doesn't seem like it's working. Or if you wanted to check, like, okay, it actually goes off the screen when it reaches 800, but that's okay. All right. So that's just something useful that you can use in your project if you're like, I don't know if this variable is really working, or like, I can't really tell where my car is right now, it's lost, something like that. All right. So let us know if you're having any issues, if you need help with anything. Submit your projects. I'm going to go check right now actually and see if anybody has submitted their projects that I can go check out. That would be awesome. And the link to share your projects is in the description of this video. Alright, doesn't look like anybody has shared a project for this class yet. Which is totally fine. Wow, this is going fast. Alright. So share your projects with us. Let us know in the comments if you need help with anything. Make sure you like our video, subscribe to our channel. All right, let's see. That was pretty much all I had planned for today, but if you guys want another project to do in the meantime, we have a ton of projects on our YouTube channel that you can go and check out. I would recommend maybe doing the, there's an introduction to generative art. That's a super cool one. There's a few about game design. Those ones would be a really good one for you to try out if you're interested in making a game. So just let me know if you need any recommendations in the chat box, and we can totally help you out with that. So I'm going to sign off for today. If you guys need any help, just share your projects with us and let us know that you need help with them, or you can let us know in the chat box or the comments on this video. All right, thank you for coming to class today. We'll see you guys next time.